Minister, how can we make affordable energy for the residents of Ontario? Because we know that province is also facing the issue of meeting surging energy demands and electrification.
Energy costs in 2018 were 400% higher under the Liberals, the highest on the continent.
Inflation is high. We know the Canadians are struggling, so their energy bills are also quite high. So, what government can do to reduce these energy bills?
It's very sad because I think we could all point to examples, particularly of seniors who were driven into energy poverty because of the Liberals.
Good morning, Minister. Minister, since federal government has announced this nation building projects, and the question is in regard to the mining, we know here in Ontario the mining permitting process is very slow and complex, and which creates quite a big number of delays and debtors investment also, and also there is a shortage in this sector. So how Ontario government is fixing this issue?
Such an important question. We can't just focus on the energy side. We need to make sure that the mines, critical minerals, and the roads to enable the Ring of Fire are part of the federal government's priority list. And it was not in the first tranche. So we are disappointed that the Ring of Fire road was not prioritized. We're asking for $1 billion to build the all-season road. But look, as I've mentioned before, we are not waiting on the feds to move. We announced an investment to build the road into Northern Ontario just a few weeks ago into the gateway of the Ring of Fire. Greg Rickford and I made that announcement. My point is, colleagues, we can't afford to wait, and we're not in Ontario. Our premier is determined to get things done. But we do need the feds if we want to go big. And large-scale nuclear and the Ring of Fire, as I mentioned, are two examples where we need them to be part of the solution. So what we're asking for is two things: the $1 billion to build it, match that investment of the province, but more than the money, we're asking them to stop the duplication of assessments. We have an EA in the Ring of Fire led by Indigenous nations. The feds, doing what they often do best, which is slowing projects down, announced their own EA on the exact same project, frustrating the Indigenous communities and the province because we can't afford to wait. Every day we delay, the Russians or the Chinese who've cornered the market win, their workers, their economy. It undermines our own economic sovereignty. So we're going to keep the pressure on the federal government. In the meantime, while it did take 15 years to build a mine in this province, we are the second slowest in the OECD. I'm proud that our government announced landmark one project, one process. First government to unveil this in the country. We passed it into law. It's being proclaimed in force, meaning it becomes enforceable in October, and we're going to use these authorities in the weeks ahead. I am excited that we're going to cut permit timelines by 50%. We spent the entire summer working diligently to execute on a commitment. We're going to go from the second slowest to one of the fastest on earth. And that's because the premier, our government, has a vision to get the most ethically sourced resources out of the ground and to the world markets. And I'm very proud that we've done that. We're doing it. We're investing $500 million in processing. So as I say, Ontario's not waiting, but we do want the feds to keep up with our sense of ambition and our hope for a stronger economy for the next generation of workers.
My follow-up is in concern to the energy sector. Minister, how can we make affordable energy for the residents of Ontario? Because we know that province is also facing the issue of meeting surging energy demands and electrification. So in all that scenario, inflation is high. We know the Canadians are struggling, so their energy bills are also quite high. So what government can do to reduce these energy bills?
Well, my colleagues may have examples or stories they want to share as well. But look, 10 years ago, all three of us were elected in 2018. We were elected overwhelmingly on a mandate to fix Liberals' hydro disaster. Energy costs in 2018 were 400% higher under the Liberals, the highest on the continent. They were obsessed and ideologically focused on buying expensive renewables when there were more inexpensive options available to the people of Ontario. Literally, we still pay because these contracts are 20 years long, 10 times above market rate. It is like beyond insanity. It is beyond incompetence. Ratepayers want their money back. And it's very sad because I think we could all point to examples, particularly of seniors who were driven into energy poverty because of the Liberals. So how do we do this differently? First step, first things first, we've stabilized energy rates. We've kept them below inflation since 2018. There's nothing in this economy that has been sub-inflation, but we've been very intentional to keep power bills low. And I'm proud to have stood with Rudy and Mike Holmes. You may know the guy, a very famous home builder and renovator. We announced the largest energy efficiency program in the history of Canada, $10.9 billion over 12 years. It's larger than every province combined. It has the effect of lowering bills, thousands of dollars in savings, up to 30% of the cost for it could be a roof insulation, it could be a heat pump, it could be rooftop solar. We're putting tens of thousands of dollars on the line so that we can create more energy efficient homes and thus reduce your bills with an annual savings of several $100s. So we're really committed to this. And if I could just say, I'm excited that Rudy and I will be announcing the next phase of our energy efficiency program. We're going to expand it to include even more household products and investments that could help save you money. Our bottom line is affordability. It's why we have embraced nuclear and natural gas. Why the Liberals have obsessed over the most expensive hydro sources. We're using competition and we're using to drive our energy bills down. Just what I mean by that is the Liberals sole sourced on renewables, 10 times above market rate. We use public procurements, which have reduced bills by 30%. We've saved taxpayers, ratepayers, 30% because of competitive tension. So we're doing it right. We know there's more to do, but we are absolutely committed to keeping costs down. And I got to say, because I know Effie would kill me if I didn't, we fought against the Liberal carbon tax, which drove up electricity rates higher than anything else. And thank goodness Premier Ford was able to shake the feds or, drive that agenda and get that tax, totally taken off the table for all residential electricity consumers. That's a huge savings for Ontario families. And frankly, it wouldn't have happened if Doug Ford wasn't fighting day in and day night against that job-killing carbon tax. But I don't know if Effie or Rudy may have anything you'd like to share. Please do. The message, I think, is clear. Ontario has a lot to offer the world in technology and resources and intellectual capacity. We've got it all in this province, and we are taking that positive message to the world to create jobs and to safeguard our economy from very real risks abroad, both from the US, from China, and from changing markets and rising instability in the global economy. So I don't have much to add because they have very effectively communicated the key takeaways. But if there's one I want to lean into that Rudy and Effie both mentioned, it's the federal government. If we want to go build big projects of national consequence, if we want to create tens of thousands of jobs, if we want an industrial policy that protects the Canadian supply chain, then our message to the federal prime minister and government is they need to invest in large-scale nuclear reactors. Every region of Ontario is part of the supply chain. Every ratepayer benefits from affordable power. Every Canadian benefits a $235 billion gain to the national economy if the feds support us in building a next generation of Canadian nuclear tech in this province. You remember CANDU. You remember the amazing innovation of this local Canadian technology and success story built and conceived and exported right here in our province. We're proud. We punch above our weight, but we need the feds to support us on large scale. Yes, they have backed small modular reactors. We welcome that investment. To be frank with you, we were building it. The ship had, we were moving forward regardless, but of course we welcome their contribution to de-risk it. But we need them to go big. We need them to move faster. We need them to end the duplication. You've heard Effie, Rudy, and I speak about this ad nauseum, saying to the federal government, the world has fundamentally changed. And so, therefore, they need to move at a greater speed. And that's why we're calling for regulatory reform, the elimination of the clean energy regulations. We're calling for the impact assessment law to be streamlined to 2 years, down from 5, 3 years longer than the UK or the French could do major assessments on nuclear. What we need the feds to do is wake up to the new reality we live in and move with a greater sense of true bias to action. And that's what we're calling on the federal government to do. We have a constructive relationship with them, but look, at the end of the day, we are going to fight for Ontario families and businesses in this economic war, and we need the feds to support us to do the big things. $235 billion, 10,500 jobs. That is nation building. And all roads lead through Ontario. 50% of GDP rests in our province alone. So we're going to keep the pressure on the federal government and the federal Liberals to act with greater sense of speed and, frankly, more ambition. These first 5 projects are a start, but it's certainly not enough if we want to meet the moment of self-reliance. So with that, I appreciate this. The provinces and territories are aligned. There's intergovernmental harmony. We all want the feds uh, to reform their bills that are holding back investment and, frankly, setting back our economy. When we've got to be competitive, we've got to be faster, we've got to be more nimble, we've got to be more market oriented. It cannot take a decade just to do an assessment, 15 years to open a mine when we can do it in 7 in the industrialized democratic world. I'm sorry. Our premier and our team here, for Effie, Rudy, and I, we are unapologetically going to be a challenge function to this country to move quicker in order to safeguard our jobs and to help take a piece of that market from critical minerals to nuclear. And I believe very strongly that there's unanimity amongst the premiers to the feds. Where there's intergovernmental discord is that the feds, while they're saying the right things, have yet to do anything. So we need them to now to demonstrate that they're the actions behind their words. So far, often they say things on speed and nation building and red tape reduction that we like. But it's words are not going to create a job. A regulatory environment will create a job. And right now we have the most burdensome, duplicative regime that has killed $40 to $50 billion of investment in our country in the resource sector alone. Capital is fleeing because of federal laws that undermine confidence. If you can never get to yes, it's never-ending assessments, consultations, and reviews. Look at what the Enbridge CEO said. They put billions of dollars in the U.S. market because they didn't have certainty on Canada. That is a shameful admission that the system is not working, especially when we see young people out of jobs. How can it be true that there are jobs without people and people without jobs in this country? So we have a plan. Keep the pressure on, work with the feds in good faith, but keep building, keep investing. And that's why Ontario's Integrated Energy Plan commits to building 15,000 megawatts of net new power, the largest nuclear reactor in Port Hope, 10,000 megawatts. The small modular reactors, the hydroelectric fleet entirely being refurbished, plus net new. So we're doing everything we're doing what we've got to do in the province, but we do need the feds to play a role. And to your point, I think we're broadly aligned on the intent. We just need them to execute.